Well, this week we have been following stories surrounding water safety, two of them, in fact. First, right now there are about 5 million above ground swimming pools sold in the U.S. and Canada being recalled. These pools have a strap that kids can use to climb into the water. Safety experts say at least 9 children have drowned this way. The pools were sold under the brand names Bestway, Intex, Recreation, and Polygroup. If you have a pool, you're asked to call the manufacturer for a replacement kit. That recall comes on the heels of the entertainment world losing actor Malcolm Jamal Warner. He played Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. Warner died after being pulled by a rip current while swimming on vacation in Costa Rica. His death, a reminder that it's important to keep families safe around the water, which is why we talked to Megan Ferraro, the executive director of National Water Safety. It's a nonprofit that's called the Zach Foundation. Megan is joining us now. Megan, can you kind of just walk us through, especially why now is so important to be talking about drowning safety and swimming safety?
So tomorrow or today, excuse me. So today is World Drowning Prevention Day. It's an important day, not only here in the United States or in Michigan, but all around the world, where everyone is celebrating awareness around water safety and drowning prevention strategies. We know that drowning is the leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 4, and the second leading cause of death for children under the age of 14. And so we want everyone to think about how they can be safe around the water. We want you to enjoy the water, but we want you to do it safely. And so that means bringing with you some strategies. If you're in open water, wearing a life jacket, not just for the little kids, but for the adults as well. Everyone on a boat, on a lake, should be wearing a life jacket this summer. We want you to learn how to swim. Again, not just for kids, but for adults as well. We want you to learn CPR so that if a drowning does occur, the chance of survival goes up significantly if CPR is performed. We want close and active adult supervision anytime children are around water. And if you're lucky enough to have a backyard pool, we want to encourage you to install a 4-sided isolation fence so that if you have young children at your home or grandchildren that may be visiting, they are protected from easily slipping into a pool unnoticed.
Um, you talked about life jackets, which seems to be a challenge all the time, every single year, especially with kids, but sometimes adults, because they're just not the cool thing to wear.
Yes, that is true. So we want to encourage you to wear a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. Parents, you may not want to, you may not think you need to, but not only are you keeping yourself safe, but you're modeling good and safe behavior for your children. You wouldn't drive in a car without your seatbelt fastened, right? This is the same idea. We know that car accidents are few and far between, but you're protected and a lot safer if you're wearing that seatbelt. And we want you to bring the same philosophy to being around water. Wear a life jacket. Show your kids that it's cool and that it's okay and that it will keep you safe.
Some friends that have had, obviously pool parties in the summer for birthdays or whatever it might be, and they've hired lifeguards. And some people were like, wow, that's kind of over the top, don't you think? And I was like, no, I think it's perfect because someone needs to be watching the kids and that needs to be someone's sole focus, right?
Right. And so we encourage parents. We know that not everyone's going to have a lifeguard at their backyard swimming pool. So we encourage a concept called water watcher. So that means that an adult is supervising the water for a period of time and maybe switches off after a half an hour or so. But during that period of serving as a water watcher, of watching your kids while they're in the water, no alcohol, no using your phone, no reading a book, no chatting with a friend. It means constant and active adult supervision. We know that drowning doesn't look like it does when they show in the movies. It's not loud splashing around. It's quite quiet and it's quite unnoticeable. And so we want you keeping constant and active supervision of your children when they're in the water. We want to encourage you to get in the water with your kids, have fun with them. And if you don't know how to swim, go to your local rec center, your community center, and take swimming lessons. There are lots of low-cost, affordable options out there. And if you are struggling with figuring out how to do that, reach out to your local YMCA, your local Red Cross, your local Boys and Girls Club, and they will help you figure out how to get these lessons.
All right, we're going to take a short 90-second break. When we come back, more with my conversation with Megan. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. Let's get back to my conversation with Megan Ferraro, the executive director of a national water safety organization, about keeping families safe in the water. This is more prevalent in the headlines now because of Malcolm Jamal Warner. When things like this happen, do you tend to see more people taking this seriously, or is it at least a good opportunity for discussion?
It's a great opportunity for discussion. And we have since learned that there was a rip current involved in his untimely and very tragic death. And so we know that rip currents are on Lake Michigan and lakes all around the United States. And so if you find yourself at a lake or in an ocean and you feel yourself being pulled out by the current, what we like to teach you, it's similar to stop, drop, and roll. It's called flip, float, and follow. So we want you to flip onto your back, stay calm, and let the current pull you out of that rip current. Once you feel yourself out of it, swim parallel to the shore and back to safety. So panicking and splashing around and trying to scream for help, it may not get you the attention you need. So swim in front of a lifeguard always, never swim alone. And if you find yourself in a rip current, flip onto your back, float out of the current, and swim back to shore.
You're suggesting you just kind of let the water take you and then go back in?
Yes, exactly. Once you're out of that rip, that's the only.
That seems the opposite of what our intuition is.
It is. And that's why we like to try to use a short and easy to remember sentence like stop, drop, and roll, right? Well, we all remember that expression. So we want you to flip onto your back, float out of that rip current, follow yourself to safety, and then swim to shore. But if you're swimming in front of a lifeguard, these lifeguards are really good at their jobs and they're really good at paying attention and keeping you safe. So we encourage you and your children to always swim in front of a lifeguard, to look at those flags at beach and lake fronts. If there's a green flag out, that means it's safe to swim. If there's a yellow flag, it means that there are some currents that could put you at risk. And certainly never enter the water if there's a red flag. And talk to your lifeguard if you're not sure. Hey, I don't see a flag out today. Is the water safe for me to be in? They know, they are checking the currents, and our weather apps are really great at telling us this information as well. So pull up your weather app, whether it's on your phone or through your local news station, and understand what the currents and the risks are that day.
Challenging here too is that, we're talking about water safety, but even with these pool recalls right now, these are situations where the parents sometimes didn't even know the kids were swimming in the pool at all.
Right. So about 18 months ago, our organization became aware of these drowning deaths in these above ground pools. And so we sent a letter to the ASTM urging them to change the design of these pools. So about 6 weeks ago, they agreed to change the design of any newly built above ground pools, which felt like a real victory. And then earlier this week, the Consumer Product Safety Commission recalled all existing pools. And what that recall means is that there's now a repair available so that those compression straps that were helping keep the shape of the pool can no longer create a ledge or a foothold for a child to climb onto and sadly fall into the pool. Having said that, if you have a four-sided isolation fence around either an above ground pool or an in-ground pool, it will prevent that access that we saw happen in those tragic 9 deaths. And so really, when you have toddlers in the home, when you have toddler grandchildren that may be visiting you, you need that four-sided isolation fence. You need alarms on doors and windows leading out to the pool area. Even if they're annoying, it is worth it. It is worth it. The tragic heartbreak that these families are experiencing is something you do not want to experience. You don't want your neighbors to experience. And we say all this not to scare you, because water is a really fun family activity. And it's one of the few sports that you can do throughout the course of your life, right? It's good for your joints. It's good for your bones. It's good for health. We see, grandmothers doing aqua therapy, and we know it's something you can do your whole life. So we urge you to learn to swim and to enjoy the water, but to do so safely.
What's challenging, and I'm sure you've talked to many families between the organization and the foundation, who I'm assuming have told you, we wish we would have put an alarm on the door. We wish we would have put a fence around the pool, and now it's too late.
And now it's too late. And the Zach Foundation exists because 6-year-old Zachary became entrapped in the swimming pool drain of his family's backyard pool. And his family wishes that they knew about drain entrapment. They did not know. And he knew how to swim. He was closely supervised. And shortly after he died, a federal law was passed that changed the way pools were built and the way drain covers were constructed. And so We know that no situation is perfect and that no parent wants to experience this loss. And so it's our goal to just bring safety and awareness message to as many people as we can, and really to ensure that this rate of drowning in our country goes down. There's no reason that drowning should be the leading cause of death for kids ages 1 to 4, or the second leading cause of death for kids under the age of 14. We lose classrooms of students every year in America, and it's not necessary. And so we want to give people these life-saving skills, these lifelong sports, and we want families to enjoy the water safely. And we know that this is something we can accomplish. And so we're excited to celebrate World Drowning Prevention Day, and we're excited to bring awareness to this important issue.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.